Central Minnesota Sports Hub. It's the Morning Sports Desk, presented by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and Fun Zone Arcade. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and streaming on YouTube.
Hello, it is the Morning Sports Desk on a Tuesday, the 4th of January. February. Here we go. It's a new month. This has gotten me all thrown off here, Corey. Mainly, I'm just worried about rocking this cool hat on the Morning Sports Desk, powered by Pizza Ranch and Fun Zone Arcade in Wadena. This is why you should watch the show on YouTube. It's just why you should.
It's a sweet hat. I was so excited. I knew you were going to the game, and then I saw on social media that they were doing these hat giveaways. And then I saw after the game, people were selling them immediately from anywhere to between $15 and $45. I was like, oh, CJ's got them. He's got his hand on them. Those are great. They look very warm.
Those are great. I got one. My wife got one. There were giveaways at the Timberwolves game on Saturday night against the Wizards, and that was the highlight of my night. Don't ask how the basketball game went.
It's Tuesday, man. We already know how that game went.
We know the next game went. And the whole thing, we went over the weekend, got these cool hats, and you know what? They're awesome because everybody was wearing them. Adults, kids, adults who came with other adults and no kids at all. They just wore them the whole night because these things are cool.
Now, they're awesome.
They're a Crunch hat. And Crunch is the Timberwolves mascot. And look at this happy little guy.
And it looks like the warmest hat of all time.
It is not thick, but it is cozy. It's
not breathable at all.
No, it's like those one blankets you put on where it's like, it's not like I need to hunker down like grandma's quilt that she puts on your bed when you stay at her house. You know what I mean? But it's like the nice, like I'm in a sweatshirt and sweatpants and I'm laying on the couch and this blanket's over me and gosh darn it, I just don't want to move. It's that kind of feel.
Yeah. No, man, it's awesome. I love it. And I'm totes jelly, I think is how you're supposed to say that. Yeah,
I'm wearing this all show. So when if I make some serious sports takes later on, as serious as this show can get, it will forever be known that this is going to look great, by the way, for when we clip this later, for when we put it on Sports Cow on Facebook. Can I get a moo?
Moo.
When we put it on Sports Cow later, people are just going to see this reel and they're just going to be like, what the heck is going on? Which is why you should watch the show on YouTube.
So what's the first serious sports take you have to give then?
Pretty big one in the Park Region Conference tonight for you, Corey.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, a doubleheader of Park Region Conference boys basketball. I'm going to Henning to see the Hornets take on the Pillager Huskies, the two top teams in the PRC. There's a million things we could possibly run through with this game, but Henning undefeated in the PRC, Pillager 1 loss in the PRC. Do you want to guess who that 1 loss was to?
I don't think at this point in the year, I don't think we have to guess.
Earlier in the season, yeah, a 60-52 loss to Henning in Pillager back on December 13th. So we're the second time through the conference now. Really, there's only like a third of the schedule or less remaining in the regular season. So conference implications, no section implications directly on the line, but of course, Henning in 6A, Pillager in 7AA. So, especially from Henning's perspective, for them to get a win over a AA school certainly helps QRF and potential seedings down the line kind of indirectly anyway. So that's tonight, 7:15 pregame, 7:30 tip. Pumped to be there for this one with the two top teams in the PRC on 105.9 FM, the Superstation K106, the Superstation K106 app, and WadenaRadio.com.
Yeah, if Pillager wins, they will have a potential share of the Park Region Conference, or at least be in line if things kind of work out the rest of the season. And if Henning wins, it puts them in the driver's seat to get another Park Region Conference title in their grasp, which would be, which again is just a notch in their belt. And Pillager trying to snag it here this year. It'll be a fun one. Co-conference champs or conference champs will be a good implication. We'll find out kind of tonight how things will shake out for the rest of this regular season. Park Region Conference, kind of two teams towards the middle of the pack of the PRC this year in Wadena Deer Creek, and also New York Mills. They square off tonight in boys basketball at the Wadena Deer Creek Middle High School Gym, 7:15 pregame, 7:30 tip-off on 101.7 FM and AM 920 KWAD, or online at wadenaradio.com/KWAD. Looking at the Wadena Deer Creek Wolverines, they are 6-10 on the campaign, and in the Park Region Conference, they are 6-3 with those losses in the PRC going to Henning and Pillager and Verndale throughout their three kind of conference losses so far this season. Looking at New York Mills, they are 5-11, and they are 4-5 in the Park Region Conference. And most recently, they had a 60-55 loss to Sabika on Friday night that they're trying to avenge and get back in the win column in the PRC for both of these teams. And of course, Corey, it is a part of the Highway 10 Cup or Challenge that these two schools do, which we talk about all the time. We love it when schools have something to play for, when there's a challenge, when there's just kind of some traveling trophy. It just adds to an extra fun layer in a rivalry. And New York Mills and Wadena Deer Creek boys basketball through the junior high, JV, and varsity ranks do that, and that's really fun to see.
Yeah, games start at 3:45 this afternoon, and with the 7th grade level, and then go through the varsity game tonight. And there's a little traveling trophy that looks like goes along with it. Totally on board with this sort of stuff. It is the perfect amount of silly, and I cannot tell you how, if I were a part of one of these two schools, how seriously I would take it. It's perfect. I love it, and I wish more schools did it.
Corey, did you have any traveling trophies when you were in high school? There was nothing? Any sport?
No, none.
I will tell you, we had one. And it was between Bertha Hewitt and Verndale for football. There was a teacher, his name was Mr. Ailing, and he was the art teacher at both Bertha Hewitt and Verndale. They shared. And he had classrooms in each room. So there was this big ceramic pig in a big, like, cartoonish looking skirt, and that was the pig. That was the traveling trophy when he was teaching. Was whoever won the football game in the fall, the pig got to be in his classroom for the rest of the school year, and that was our traveling trophy.
Love it. That's perfect.
Until he retired, in which case then it just kind of went to the wayside. But it's fun to have, and that's the exact right situation. Like, you just have some kind of traveling trophy, and it's just something that everybody. It's why they do it in college. They're corny. They're silly. They're whatever. It doesn't really matter, but it's just something fun to add an extra layer into these games. You played these teams every year. Why not have something to keep it fresh? Like, these kids know each other. These kids have played each other since they were not even just 7th grade, since they were in the 4th grade. Like, let's add a wrinkle to this. Let's make it fun,
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I love it. More traveling trophies, please.
On board with it all. Hey, you can find the full broadcast schedule online at wadenaradio.com. That's where you can find it. And things are heating up, Corey, with the broadcast schedule. As we mentioned, every time around early February, section wrestling playoffs start next week, and we kind of really start to ramp up then. Girls hockey playoffs start this week. I mean, we're into it.
It's Nordic ski section stuff today, as a matter of fact. So
exactly.
It's begun. The postseason play is officially underway.
We are in. Let's do it. Before we go any further, we are going to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Timberwolves, because as awesome as this hat is, since acquiring it, Corey, the Wolves have not won a basketball game. And we will talk a little bit about that. We'll also talk about the Twins getting a free agent. They signed a free agent to a major league contract on February 4th. Awesome. We'll talk a little bit more about all of that and more. But first, we should thank and appreciate the good folks at the Pizza Ranch and Fun Zone Arcade in Wadena who helped make the morning sports desk possible. Corey, what the heck is going on at the Fun Zone Arcade in Wadena?
Well, we talk about what's happening with the buffet quite often, right? Whether it's that crantastic salad or all the delicious options that are available to you always on the buffet or via an order, takeout, or delivery. But there's a lot of great things happening at the Fun Zone, as we know. All the great games that are so fun to play. Talk about that Godzilla VR game that is just an absolute, the crowning achievement in the Tackman family is being able to play that game whenever we get the opportunity to. But some unbelievable prizes await. As again, if you're watching this on YouTube, which you should be, you can see here there are tons of sports memorabilia options for you to eventually win, whether it's mystery jerseys, whether it's non-mystery jerseys, and it could be from your favorite Vikings player. It could be from one of those like fan favorites from years past. It doesn't have to be a Minnesota sports member at all. It could be like this signed jersey from Joe Theismann. Are you kidding me? That was one at the Fun Zone Arcade in Wadena. Two lucky guys redeemed their points for the Mystery Hall of Fame jersey. And they get Joe Theismann. Unbelievable stuff to be able to put a Joe Theismann jersey in your bag and an opportunity to win that. There's stuff you could win for ice fishing. Look at straight above those guys' head and the giant stuffed animals that you could win. Lots of fun to be had at the Fun Zone Arcade and Pizza Ranch in Wadena.
And by the way, Corey, it should be worth mentioning, Joe Theismann stopped playing decades ago, 30 years ago. And the fact that two kids still are holding that jersey with pride is just shows you the lasting power of Joe Theismann, you know?
Yes. How he's often described, the lasting power of Joe Theismann.
Nobody remembers a single down he ever played in the NFL. They just remember how it ended.
Yeah, it turns out if you have one of the grossest things to ever happen to you on live television happen to you
in prime time,
yeah, you're going to be. I saw a joke one time about you knew it was bad because Lawrence Taylor, who was coked out of his mind, even freaked out in the moment.
You're just like, oh, what did I do?
Get somebody out here immediately.
And then like 20 some years later, Alex Smith has a horrific knee injury in the Washington football squad in Washington. I believe it was against the Giants? I don't think it matters. That made Joe Theismann go like live tweet, "This looks as bad, if not worse than mine." Like, even he was like, guys, this is bad.
This is really bad.
This is really bad. So
do you remember how scared everyone was for Alex Smith when he played that first time?
Everybody.
I mean, I couldn't believe, everyone was like, please don't.
You don't have to prove anything, man. You're back here.
No, we took him under our little wings, like, oh,
fly, baby bird, but not too high. You just rested that wing. So good luck, Jaden Daniels. Get out of FedEx Field.
Let's not put that into the world.
That new stadium can't come fast enough to burn FedEx Field to the ground. Although, did they play or did they still play at whatever the stadium?
I don't know, man. RFK
Stadium. Yeah, RF. Yeah, I don't know. Griffith Stadium.
Griffith Stadium.
Yeah, back when owners just used to build a stadium and name it after themselves.
Yeah, man. I have no idea. I don't know anybody. I don't know any stadium names anymore. I still call it Jacobs Field in Cleveland.
I still call it U.S. Cellular Field in Chicago because that's what it was growing up.
I call it Trubisky.
By the way, I found out a funny story over the weekend. I don't know if this is true or not because I saw it on Instagram Reels. Yes. So take it with a grain of salt.
Yes, no, it's going to be real for sure.
Real, get it? Real, REEL, REAL. But apparently, the Bushes, who owned the Cardinals back in the day, wanted to name their stadium Budweiser Stadium. They wanted to get a naming rights. They wanted to do whatever. Because they obviously had the Anheuser-Busch, they had like money in that, so they wanted to name it after one of their things. And the commissioner of baseball at the time was like, "No, you're not doing that. We're not naming a stadium after beer," which feels so ridiculous in today's day and age. But he's like, "No, you're not naming stadium after a beer. That's not what we're doing." So he's like, "You know what? Fine, I'll name it after me. Call it Busch Stadium."
Yep.
Like, okay, sure, you can do that. And then after that, he looked at his Anheuser-Busch team and went, "Make a Busch beer now." Immediately. And that's the workaround. That's the loophole.
I love it.
So that's how Busch is enjoyed because the St. Louis Cardinals owner is petty.
So what is that? What's that stadium called now?
Busch Stadium.
It's still Busch Stadium. This is Busch 3.
Yes.
Technically,
yes.
Mark McGwire played in was Busch 2.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know there was a Busch 1.
Apparently there was.
Busch as often as I can. I saw Mark McGwire hit a home run in Busch Stadium. How cool is that?
The best.
Into Big Mac land.
I saw Bartolo Colon pitch at Braves spring training back when they played at Wide World of Sports in Orlando.
Speaking of wide, Bartolo Colon.
That was when he pitched for the Braves, and I was like, oh, this is so cool, Bartolo Colon pitching. Little did I know that 6 months later, he would be donning a Twins uniform and helping guide them back to the playoffs for the first time in almost a decade.
That's right.
That was a weird year. And then now I go back to not really liking Bartolo Colon outside of the memes because Johan Santana, 2005 Cy Young. Everybody knows the drill.
Let's stay with the Twins here.
Okay.
Because they did a little something, right?
They did a thing, Corey. They did a thing. What thing was that? On February 4th, when pitchers and catchers report in 10 days, you know what they did? They said, this team, this is good. We got a good roster here, but it could be better. Let's get this team rolling. Let's add a major league free agent contract to the mix. They signed reliever, the one, the only, Danny Colome is back with the Twins.
Okay. Oh, we're doing the whole thing? Keep going.
That's it. Danny Colome. Who is Danny Colome? Well, he pitched for the Twins back in 2022, and then came to spring training with the club in 23, was put on waivers, was picked up at the end of spring training by the Orioles, and had a couple nice runs with them, and now is back in a Twins uniform, a left-handed reliever to basically replace Caleb Thielbar's spot in the bullpen, because the only other left-handed reliever the Twins really have, I don't have the names in front of me, but I believe is just Cody Funderburk. And as much fun as it is to yell Thunderstruck into the when he comes onto the mound, he's still pretty unproven as a big league reliever. So the point is, you bring him into town, you kind of replace Caleb Thielbar as your higher leverage left-handed reliever, and you kind of go from there. Now, it's the first major league contract the Twins have given out this offseason. But the funny thing is, Corey, and we talked about this yesterday, the Twins were not alone in that category. As of yesterday, there were 1/6 of baseball that was not participating in free agency at all. The Padres, the Marlins, the Brewers, the Twins, and the Cardinals all came into this morning with $0 spent on major league contracts in free agency. I get it. The league's in a weird spot. All those teams have Bally affiliates, and they're all kind of going through weird stuff. But the Brewers and the Marlins don't shock us at all that they don't spend in the offseason. The Cardinals are weird, and the Padres are going through an ownership mess. And the Twins, in their own way, are going through an ownership sorting. So, like, you can blame the Padres and the Twins on those two. The Cardinals, I don't know what's going on with them. But it's a great look for your league when 1/6 of your teams are just not participating. And then that's 1/6 of the league. And then those other players are like, well, I don't know. The Dodgers are offering me money, and 1/6 of the league isn't offering me anything. I'm going to go sign with the Dodgers. And everybody yells at the player in the Dodgers. And it's like, yeah, is anybody doing anything to stop them, or are they just going to let it happen and cry poor? Because it looks like they're letting it happen and cry poor. Anyway, Twins signed Danny Colome.
Sure does. So, Danny, I mean, we're at that weird time of year with Twins news, and I'll be interested in what your opinion of this is. But we are, like you said, 10 days away from pitchers and catchers reporting. The excitement is starting to build. There's stuff around this could be adding Colome is nice.
That bullpen is sneaky.
Okay, so hold on here. Let me get to this because the way you answer that leads into my question. There's people saying like this should help shore up the back end of the bullpen and be a nice thing. Colome, he's not like a needle mover. Like, this is a Caleb Thielbar replacement. Is Caleb Thielbar, wherever he signed, was that a needle mover for the Cubs? No, it certainly wasn't. So that's the kind of guy they had to bring in to replace Thielbar. My question for you is, how much is his contract worth?
They haven't said. So I guess it's probably like $1 million. It's probably nothing much.
The Twins are in the bottom before the signing. We're in the bottom 6 of money spent out in free agency this offseason, right?
Sorry.
Signing, it's going to still be, they're in the bottom 6. That still is the case. So there's a lot of things out right now about the Twins. People really excited for them, saying they are clearly the best team in the Central Division again this year. This, barring the collapse of last year, notwithstanding, this team should win the Central Division kind of comfortably. But their over-under is only 87.5, which is bad.
Right. I mean, it's the typical AL Central.
Every other team is according to Vegas odds picked to finish below 500. Mm-hmm. So my question for you, CJ, is there actual real excitement around the Twins, or is this anticipatory excitement because that means spring is here, and when baseball's here, that means nice weather's right around the corner, and it's just fun to start another new season?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think there is a good amount of that second part where it's like the season's rolling around again and the Wolves are kind of flailing and the Wild are kind of flailing and the Vikings were a dud. And the Lynx don't start for a while. So all you have really is the Twins to kind of like set your sights on. So there is a bit of that anticipatory, like we need something new to start up again. So let's look at the Twins. Now that being said, you're right. Pacoda projections, Fangraphs projections, Vegas, a lot of stuff have the Twins picked to win the Central. Now, take it all with a grain of salt because they're almost always wrong. It's never an exact science. So as exciting as it all is, the Twins are projected to have one of the best bullpens last year, and they ended up, their bullpen was mediocre. So, but the point
you're projected, if everything works out, everybody finishes on the under, right?
Right.
They could have a below 500 record and win the division.
Oh yeah, that's 100% possible because this is the AL Central. We shared the meme a week ago where it was the caption and it says AL and NL Central teams, when you tell their owners that if they spend just even a little on free agency, they could win their crappy divisions every single year. And they go, what? No. Like, it's like, if you just put in a little bit of money each year to this team, the Guardians, by the way, they cut payroll after making it to the ALCS. They cut money and they told their fans their version of Twins Fest isn't going to be every other year. It's going to be every third year. Like, that's how much they hate their fans. Like, and the Royals, they did a little stuff last year. They're not going to make as much of a big splash this year. The Tigers re-signed Flaherty after they traded him at the deadline to the Dodgers. They got him back in free agency, so that's a big bump up. And by the way, if the Tigers sign Alex Bregman, that's a problem. They've been kind of rumored with him, but he's been playing footsie, which makes me think he wants to go back to the Astros. But
does he make them 8 games better?
No, but he's a legit like top.
No, that's I understand that.
Yeah, he's not going to shoot them up.
I think Detroit's over under is 79.5.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's not good.
Uh-huh. The point of this is that the Central is not, I mean, the White Sox are the White Sox. Like, they're not even worth talking about. If the Twins just invested just a little bit, the Twins farm system is in a good spot. Walker Jenkins is a top 4, top 3 prospect in all of baseball. And by 4th of July, as we talked about last week, there's a chance he's the number 1 prospect in all of baseball. He's going to be playing at St. Paul at some point this year. And currently he's 19. Like, he is going to get to the major league soon. The Twins have Luke Keyshaw, who's going to play in the major leagues at some point. They have Emmanuel Rodriguez. Like, they have a farm system that's got some reinforcements coming. They have a starting rotation that looks legit. The Twins have fastened out their bullpen. There is a little bit of that anticipatory excitement, but I think underneath it, I think the bad taste in our mouths of how the season ended rightfully should leave you with a bad taste in your mouth. The Twins didn't do anything over the offseason to make it, like, the Twins ended on a dud in 2022, but then they re-signed Correa and then they traded for Pablo Lopez. Like, there was a little bit of like, okay, like, here we go. They shook some things up. And right now there's not really a shakeup. It's just kind of rolling back that same roster. And so that's why excitement isn't as high as it could be. I think really the biggest excitement with the whole Twins fan base is just waiting for the ownership to change. And then that'll kind of, once we find out who that new owner is, I think that'll really kind of tell how excited we are for the season. But that's not going to happen until opening day. So as of right now, looking at the Twins bullpen, and this will kind of be the last point on the Twins, looking at their bullpen, it's going to be kind of like, I'm higher on it maybe than I should be, because Danny Colomé is not like a needle mover. Like, he replaces Caleb Thielbar, but Caleb Thielbar last year, he was productive in spots, but he was kind of cooked in that high leverage lefty role that they needed him to be. Danny Colomé is a guy who had some good years with Baltimore after kind of being a middling reliever for the Twins. But this is the thing about relievers. They're like kickers. One year they're unstoppable. 1 week they are unstoppable. And the next week they can't stop giving up home runs. They can't stop blowing leads. They can't stop, whatever. Relievers are weird in that way. It's why teams don't sign relievers to big contracts. It's why the Twins kind of bargain bin their bullpen, because you can't really rely on these guys year in and year out. So, but that being said, you have at the top of your bullpen, Joan Duran, Griffin Jacks, who are 1A, 1B, really, really good. You have Brock Stewart if he ever is healthy, but you have him on your roster. I have the depth chart pulled up here. Why don't we get this thing up here and we can kind of look at it at this Twins depth chart. You have Duran, you have Jacks, you have Stewart. Cole Sands had a really good year for the Twins last year. Again, bullpen guy that can, that's up and down, but he showed signs of being productive last year. Louis Varland is listed on the Twins website depth chart, by the way, as a bullpen arm and not as a starter. Take that for what you will. But if they move him to the bullpen, that's another big important piece for them. Justin Topa, we got from the Polanco trade last year, still up and down. Alcala is going to fluctuate up and down. Funderburk is your secondary lefty in the pen. I know Brock Stewart is there too, but health-wise, we all know. Michael Tonkin is going to be up and down, innings eater. And then Eberson Castellano is the Twins' Rule 5 draft pick, so he has to be in the bullpen all year long for the Twins. Otherwise, he's got to go back to Philadelphia. So this is a Twins bullpen that I think can be, I'm not going to say top in baseball, but they have the high-end talent and they have some depth that I think Varland joining this bullpen would really round out their depth and make them a really intriguing part of this team's roster, because you look at the starting rotation, it has Joe Ryan, it has Pablo Lopez, it has Bailey Ober, it has Simeon Woods Richardson, and take your spot on the fifth, Festa, Zebby Matthews, or, take your pick. There's a whole bunch of different guys in that rotation, and there's a couple Twins prospects who are knocking on the door too. So the starting rotation is kind of the strong part of this Twins team. The bullpen, I think, can help complement them. And I don't know. I think I could talk myself into being excited about the Twins this year.
Sounds like you are excited for a team that's projected to win 87.5 games. My question is, this is the Twins created this problem. Thank goodness, by the way, because I was alive when they sucked at baseball, and the entire league was thinking about getting rid of them, right? And then all of a sudden, they just started winning divisions. They've created this problem, which is a good problem to have. But when are we going to be? When is winning the division is the expectation now? There's not a, oh my gosh, maybe they can compete for the division this year. Like they
should be expected to compete for the division. That's not like, that shouldn't be surprising to teams. Yeah.
They have advanced. When is this team going to advance beyond? Well, with 91 wins, the Twins should walk away with the Central. Who cares?
Right. No, that's
good enough.
I think if you look at it from I'm not saying I agree with this, but I think the standard is, well, what if we, or kind of the theory is, what if we just make sure that by the start of the year, we are projected to win the division, and then we keep at that pace. And then once you get to the trade deadline, then that's where you start to like, okay, can we add this next piece? Can we add this starting pitcher? Can we add whatever?
Name 5 times they've ever done that.
Yeah, that's the flip side of it. And the other thing it is a much better proposition to acquire players over the winter than it is at the trade deadline, because the sellers always come out better than the buyers at trade deadlines. Shannon
Stewart is it. That's the one time it worked out.
Orlando Cabrera.
Was he a trade deadline?
In 2009, yeah.
Nice. Sure. Then him too. All right. We got to 2.
Was Carl Pavano a trade deadline piece in 09?
I don't know. I just remember his cop mustache.
I remember him hurting his shoulder shoveling snow. My guy pay a kid $20 to do that.
Oh, Pavano. That's how I said his name all the time. Anyway, I'm just saying, fine. I'm good and excited about all that stuff. And I always am, and I always will be excited about the start of the Twins. I'm not excited about 88 wins, man.
Mm-hmm. One last thing, and then we'll wrap the show up here, is the fact that the Timberwolves won 5 games in a row. We talked about this team playing really great basketball, and look at this great stretch they have in front of them. Please don't screw this up. And Ant was sick on Saturday night, which whatever, you can't really control that, most likely. And you were already out Julius Randle, so you're out 2 of your top 5 scorers on a team where offense night in and night out is questionable, and offense was questionable. Joe Ingles had 10 points scoring. I got to witness the Joe Ingles game on Saturday night.
Congratulations.
It was great. It was fun because he scored his first basket and the place went insane.
Yeah, as they should.
That was his first points of the season. We talked about him last week. It's another morning sports desk prophecy fulfilled, by the way. And then he got the ball late in the game. He was like put in the fourth quarter in important minutes because they needed offense. That's how bad it was for the Wolves against the Wizards. And he had the ball at the logo, and the fans we were all yelling like, shoot it, just pull up. And then you give it to like McDaniels for a 3 and he clanks it and you're like, okay. But they lose that game to the Wizards. Now, the good thing is nobody cared about that because the Luka trade happened and then nobody paid attention to whatever was going on. But then Monday night, you play a Kings team that traded De'Aaron Fox, didn't have De'Aaron Fox, and they also didn't get Zach LaVine back yet in their trade. And you lose to them with Ant back, and Ant maybe still sick, whatever. He didn't have a great game. But just down the stretch, once again, not being able... Down the stretch, they gave the Kings last like 6 possessions. They got a score on all 6, or they got points on all 6. Just not good down the stretch.
They didn't score for 4 straight minutes.
Wolves. And there's a stat here from Alan Horton of the Timberwolves radio. And he said Minnesota had their league-leading 31st clutch time game last night. It was their league-leading 16th game decided by 3 points or less. Minnesota with their league-leading 13th loss with a fourth quarter lead. This team can't finish games. They put themselves in position to win a lot of games, but and that was the same thing against Washington. They just cannot find a way to finish. And
some of this, CJ, as we know in sports, some of this is unlucky, right? I mean, even if you're league average, if the Timberwolves are league average in these statistics, you're talking about a team that's 7 games over 500, right?
At least, yeah.
If they're league average, and all of a sudden you feel completely and utterly different about this Timberwolves team. If they're league average, they're not league average. They're a league worst in the most important category there. So there's this like chicken or the egg, which side of the fence do you want to stand? Whichever it is, are they unlucky, or is this who they are? Is this a Denny Green, they are who we thought they were sort of situation? And we won't know till the season's over, right? We won't know until we can look back and be like, well, of course, this is how this season went. Look at how they were in these games. And then you go, well, that's just super unlucky. You roll it over for the next year and see what happens. But just because it's unlucky doesn't mean that's not who you are.
There is a thing in sports of creating your own luck.
Well, yes, that's true too. But there's also, when things start going a certain way, you can't unroll the snowball rolling down the hill.
Exactly.
You can't push it back up the hill. Sometimes it's just gone. The only thing you can hope for now is that it gets to the valley as soon as possible and maybe starts to work its way back up the other side of the valley. That it just might be, when we're all said and done, that this is who they are. Might it be unlucky? Yeah, totally. Statistically, that's absolutely the case. Whoever's the best at something and is ever the worst at something in any category is statistically luck, good or bad.
They're
mean they're not on. That doesn't mean they're not bad. It means that they're unlucky.
There's a Bill Parcells quote that says, at a certain point, you are what your record says you are.
Yes.
So for every, yes, it's unlucky. Yes, it's this, but we're going to get to a certain point in the season, like you said, where it's just, I don't know, man. It's just who they are.
It's just who they are this year.
Right.
They can't get out of their own way.
They won all those games.
Ever reason.
Yeah. That's just how it happens.
So,
but to paraphrase.
But they are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook.
This is the Morning Sports Desk powered by Pizza Ranch and Fun Zone Arcade on a Tuesday, the 4th of February. See you tomorrow.
Powered by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and Fun Zone Arcade. Follow the Morning Sports Desk on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And watch every show on YouTube.